From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay, I want to welcome you to Super Talk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. We're so honored to be here. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi radio network, or on Super Talk TV at C Spire TV. But a lot of you listen on Facebook or YouTube or your favorite podcasts. And just for that reason, I just let you know it's October the 24th, 2022. By the way, I almost said from the Foundation Studio in the Mississippi Delta. I had originally actually planned on returning from the Delta today, actually, and so I was going to do the show there this morning. My wife, Ann, and our 3 kids and our grandkids all went to Disney World. It was a tough decision, but I stayed home, spent some time with my mom, and then went up to the place in the Delta to get some work done. It was, a lot. This is that time of year. You got a lot of busy work to do, getting ready for gun season, et cetera. And I have to tell you, it's one of the funnest times of the year just to be out there, and it's fun to just work in the outdoors. And, you don't have to even have a gun or a bow with you or a fishing pole. Just being out there sometimes is what it's all about. Hey, I mentioned in my conversation with Cud Strickland last week that we tried a no-till drill at our place up in Minter City. We leased a farm up there, and we were lucky actually. After we planted, we had a little bitty rain. It wasn't much. It wasn't very significant, but it was enough. And looking at those food plots this weekend, it was incredible. The no-till drill did really, really well in Minter City. We actually went in behind it this weekend and did some fertilizer to give it a little jolt. And then of course we have rain coming, thank goodness. At our other farms though, man, it has been dry. I mean, I think most people in Mississippi who planted food plots this year, that's the story. Just absolutely incredibly dry. It's as you drive through the Delta, you see dust devils in every direction. Kind of reminded me of a couple of old jokes that I heard. I'll share them with you real quick. You never know what you're going to get with Super Talk Outdoors. But here's the first one. What did the dust devil in the Mississippi Delta? Why did the dust devil in the Mississippi Delta take a break? Well, why did it take a break? It was out of wind, of course. What type of humor does a dust storm in the Delta have? A dry sense of humor, of course. You gotta come on, man. Stay with me. But you never know what you're going to get when you listen to Super Talk Outdoors. The chance of rain tonight is 90%. So all the rain dances that we've been doing are really, really beginning to pay off. At least let's hope that's the case, because you've seen 90% before, and you've seen your farm just about to get nailed with rain, and then there's a parting of the clouds and it just misses your farm. So we'll pray everybody gets rain tonight, because I know there's a lot of seed and fertilizer on the ground all across this incredible state. Unbelievable. Hey, we've got a great show today. We're going to talk about duck hunting and conservation with my friend Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy in the second half of the show. And the first half of the show, we're going to be joined by my friend Captain Ronnie Daniels. And Ronnie's a super guy. He's with the Fisherman Guide Service and got a tremendous amount of experience down here on the coast fishing. And I look forward to visiting with him. Without any further ado, let's bring my friend Captain Daniels into the conversation. How you doing, Ronnie?
Hey, Ricky, I'm great, man. Thank you for having me on.
It's good to see you. Look, there's always a lot to talk about. We got 2 segments together, so we'll try to be, get focused a little bit here, especially on just fishing. But we had a great visit, you and I, on my show Coast View, where we talked about, coming up and what you were going to do with your life, and then you ended up deciding to become a charter boat captain and started a business and have done really well. You love fishing. You enjoy showing people coastal Mississippi in a big way, don't you?
Yeah, we have so much to offer here. We have a world-renowned fishery. We have a world-renowned place to do it at. There's more than just fishing. I tell people all the time, we have the whole package here.
It is the whole package. And as you've heard me say before, and I was actually on Primo's Truth About Hunting podcast with Lake Pickle, making the case to my national friends that Mississippi is the capital of the outdoors in America. And I really believe that. And one of the reasons is what we experience here in coastal Mississippi. You can get a boat in here and you can go offshore and do whatever you want to do. You can stay in the backwaters, you can fish the islands, and you've done it all. And again, you can go to somewhere like Venice, Louisiana, and have better access to some of the deep water stuff. But the reality is, when you go there, especially if you go with your family, that's what you're going to do when you get there. You're going to fish. There's really not a lot else to do. Past Christian got a great distinction recently, and it's really a testament to these kinds of things that are happening all across coastal Mississippi. But why don't you tell people about the Shaggy Harbor docks and the distinction that you got, and then we'll talk about why that's important.
So, Ricky, I had a TV show for 5 years, and I got to travel all over, everywhere from South Texas to the East Coast fishing, and I fished in some of the best ports that the southern U.S. has to offer. And one thing I never really saw that we have here is the dynamic of captains that are willing to work together for a bigger cause that we have here. And whenever we coupled that with Rimmer Covington's vision for a world-class facility for people to come and enjoy and fish out of, man, it's done wonders. It's been a great thing. We have people that just come down, just see what the catch is, and watch us cleaning fish. They bring their kids down there to check it out. It's just been a lot of fun watching this thing grow.
Well, Fishing Booker did a rating system, and Past Christian came out #1. And look, behind it, Coral Gables, North Charleston, South Carolina, New Orleans, Austin, Cedar Point, North Carolina, Palm Beach Shores, Florida. I mean, the list goes on from there. But what made it special is the fact that you've got this great ability for someone to get on the boat right there in Past Christian on the harbor docks, charter docks. We'll tell a little bit more about what that is and why that's important. And then the family can go do things. I mean, some of the most walkable communities in the United States line coastal Mississippi. And so the opportunity to go to all these communities and take it all in and go to the shops and eat. And if you want to, you can go to the casinos. But it's literally, it is, like you say, it's the full package. Well, tell about the charter docks.
Well, so right after Hurricane Zeta hit, Rimmer and I had already been talking about putting something together that was really nice. I do a lot of corporate business, and we have a lot of big trips that come in, and we had built an extended dock where we were working out of, but, we were, how great would it be for these big groups to be able to come in and have a place to hang out. And we recently did one with a big group of special needs children, and it was the best place ever to be able to have that. We leave out, we fish, we come back in. They can either have a buffet of food set up for them, or the clients can take their fish up, have them cooked right there. It's a comfortable place to relax while your captains are cleaning fish. It has really come together seamlessly.
Yeah, what I love about it is that through some efforts, a law was passed that enabled captains to be able to come back to the docks, clean the fish, and even go up to Shaggy's or another restaurant that might be doing the same thing, and have their fish cooked. It's just a what a wonderful environment where you really take advantage of the incredible sights of a place like Past Christian Harbor. And Highway 90, which really is an artery to anywhere that you want to go. It's just cool to see people be happy with that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned people being happy. A lot of times people ask me, how many times do you get people on here that you just can't deal with, can't stand that? I tell them the people are really one of my favorite parts about my job, and 95% of the time they're showing up just to have a good time. And I tell people all the time, show up with a good attitude. We're going to have a good time. You're going to leave here happy today.
It's interesting. The job of a charter captain and the role that you have is certainly go show people some great fishing, maybe teach them some skills they didn't have before. But it's so much more than that, isn't it, Ronnie?
We joke about it all the time. I tell people I'm not a fisherman. I'm an adult babysitter most days. But I really enjoy getting to teach people how to fully experience and be better at what I grew up learning to do and what I enjoy doing on my time off.
Yeah, of course, as you know, I love it myself. There's really such an absolute diversity of fishing that you can take in here in coastal Mississippi. We're going to talk a little bit more about, what is it that they do? Where do they go? How's the fishing been this summer? Which I'll go ahead and tell you, it's been really good. So we'll come back to that here in just a second with Captain Ronnie Daniels as we continue to explore coastal Mississippi and all its grandeur as it relates to fishing. We'll see you after this.
Out on his limb, whistling that sweet soul for him. I said 3 Mississippi to this land called Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We're going to be joined in the next segment with Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy. He's a longtime duck hunter. Got a great story to tell about that. In fact, we're going to talk about a recent national appointment that he got on some conservation efforts around North America that actually going to help us here in Mississippi. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation. But now I'm joined by my friend Captain Ronnie Daniels. He's a charter boat captain down here on the coast for Fisherman Guide Service. And we were talking before we went to break about this incredible collaboration. It's really an entrepreneurial collaboration at Shaggy Charter Docks, just kind of the brainchild of Captain Ronnie Daniels and Rimmer Covington. And it just really kind of blossomed, and it's like rated by one of the booking agents in the United States, rated #1. So you don't get there without working hard. And as you pointed out, the cruise, that's what they're rating mostly, is the cruise and how people are dealt with when they come down here. And as we were saying before we went to break, it's a lot more than just fishing. It's just kind of taking in the whole thing, and you're a guide that showing people the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast. But let's get down to the brass tacks here, because at the end of the day, they're coming down here to go fishing. And we're lucky that we have such a diversity of saltwater fishing opportunities here in coastal Mississippi. How do you describe it to somebody who calls you and said, I've never really heard much about coastal Mississippi? Tell me about what the opportunities might be.
Well, we have one of the best estuaries in the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of people talk about our water not being the color of Florida or coastal Alabama. Those nutrients and everything that we have in our water are what grows the fish that we have. Anything from offshore fishing that's available out of here to bottom fishing, snapper, all the way into what we do, which is considered nearshore coastal fishing for your primary species, speckled trout, triple tail during the summer, redfish, and flounder.
Yeah. Yes. And then, of course, if someone wants to go catch a shark, you'll do that, or Jack Crevalle, or lemonfish. It's just so diverse. And the interesting thing is sometimes you might go east, sometimes you might go west, sometimes you might go south. You get a lot because the charter captains are working together. You get a lot of, intelligence, don't you, that helps you decide, what to do today.
We absolutely do. And, that benefits everybody. And one of the things that I used to tell people whenever I was doing a lot of seminars is they'd always ask, what's the secret? What's the key? There's no secret key. It's just, if I come to your job and try to do it tomorrow, I'm not going to be as good as you. But you give me 10 years in it, probably going to be pretty close. And that all equates back to time on the water. And whenever you couple my time with 10 or 12 other charter captains' times, and we're collaborating to share information, it just makes you more successful overall, all the way around for everybody.
So give people a sense of the geography. So let's say you're leaving out of Pass Christian, what are some of give us a sense of where you might go during the course of 2 or 3 weeks.
So, about the reach of our trips is probably going to be the Chandelier Islands. And you can't talk about inshore fishing in southeast Louisiana or coastal Mississippi without bringing up Chandelier Islands. They're an amazing place to go, a lot of fun to fish. Once you move in a little bit from there is where we spend about 90% of our days, and that's the Biloxi Marsh. And everybody goes, oh, we're going to Biloxi? No, we're going to Louisiana. But you said we were going to Biloxi. I know, but that's in Louisiana. They get so confused with it. But the upper end of the Louisiana Marsh is the Biloxi Marsh, and it's thousands of islands and bays and bayous, and it's just a great habitat for a lot of species of fish. Move a little closer in, we have our barrier islands along Mississippi. And then on top of all that, we have 42 man-made inshore reefs along coastal Mississippi, and you can find the coordinates to all those on DMR's websites. Those hold a lot of fish, especially spring and fall. We target a lot of different species on those as well. So the opportunities are endless here.
It is so cool. So if you go almost, if not due south from Pass Christian, you hit Cat Island, then you go around Cat Island and you go a little further. That's where you begin to get into the Chandler Island chain. I spent a lifetime fishing those islands. If you're looking south at Cat Island, if you look to the west, and not very far to the west, in fact, is where the Biloxi Marsh starts. And as Ronnie pointed out, just once you get there, it's kind of like the Everglades in a way. There's just so many different possibilities in terms of fishing. But obviously the two most popular, speckled trout fishing and redfish fishing, of course. And to see a tailing redfish in a shallow flat and do sight casting, it's hard to beat that, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah, and some of the best sight fishing for redfish of the year is coming up. A lot of people forget about fishing as the temperatures drop, or as I say a lot of times, once football season starts, they pack it up and they're hunting. But whenever those water temperatures drop, those winter months, or whenever we get our cleanest water of the year, and it makes it a lot easier to sight fish those redfish out there.
I mean, water can be incredibly clear. Like I'm thinking about Biloxi Bay where I live. It's been last couple of summers was weird because we had so much rain, especially last summer. It was almost fresh. I mean, in fact, there's a part of this summer that we had a little bit of rain as well. We had freshwater grasses where we used to have saltwater grass, but it's been a more typical summer this year as it relates to the rain. And man, as this time of the year, as we start to get these cold fronts, we can now actually move up to the Schuylkill Bluff River and hit some of those little special spots up there. And one in particular that we go to, it's literally guaranteed to hold a bunch of redfish. And man, there's nothing like that this time of year.
Yeah, so we go through a transition period where the fish are kind of hard to find sometimes, and then summer months are in a certain pattern. Then we go through this transition, and they're gonna hold up where they're gonna spend their fall and their winter, and they get a lot more predictable and easier to find.
Do you spend any time in the Red Menace south of Cat Island and Ship Island?
No, I don't. That's not anything that we really fool too much with. A lot of you guys out of Gulfport, Biloxi, they do that type of thing. I'm very seldom ever east of Cat Island.
Interesting. That's interesting. But again, if you can go as far over as the Pearl River or as far to the east as Pascagoula River, there's literally an infinite number of spots at the end of the day. I mean, just where you are, taking in Bay St. Louis and the Biloxi Marsh and all the way up to Chandler Island. I mean, you could say, okay, I'm going to fish all the holes there this summer, and then I would tell you there's literally no way. I mean, there's just thousands of opportunities.
Well, that's a really good point. And, it's a fluid thing out there. And you bring up a lot of people there, they always say, well, why did we run all the way down here? It looks like everything we pass could be holding fish. And my answer to that is yes, it absolutely could. But this is where I caught fish yesterday, so this is where we're going to start today. And going back a few years back, I had a client ask me, he said, how long did it take you to learn this marsh? And I told him, I said, make sure you leave your phone number with me. And if it happens, I'll call you and let you know. Because I don't think you ever fully learn that marsh. We have a small storm come in or just normal changes from year to year. A point that we limited out on 25 pounds last year may not hold any fish this year. That bottom may silt over. It may wash out a little bit. And whatever was holding them there may not be there anymore. And that marsh can be very overwhelming. So what I've told a lot of beginners that are wanting to learn that marsh is don't try to tackle the whole thing at one time. Pick out 3 areas. East, west, north, and about 1 square mile, and learn those areas. Learn the bottom, learn the points, learn the way that the water moves through there, and get good in those three little areas and then venture out. Because I watch guys so much, they're chasing their own tail. They're running in circles trying to find fish and hitting everything without really learning anything. Out there, your structure most of the time is the bottom and the contour of the bottom and those oyster reefs or points and the way that the tide flows through those points. So that's really what you have to key in on to start.
And there's a lot to learn just in terms of where you can navigate. I mean, you can be at a point, and if you go to the right, there's a nice little channel that brings you on up in there a little further. If you go to the left, it's 6 inches deep, and you may actually navigate that today because it's high tide. But as soon as the tide starts to drop, your boat's going to be leaning sideways, or if a north wind comes in, you're going to be in serious trouble. There's just a lot to take in. When you heard what I just said, but I mean, you laugh, but it's so true that there's a nuance to fishing the marsh that you really have to know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just time on the water and experience. That's what it all comes down to. At the end of the day, get out there, take it all in. Don't be too focused. It'll come in time. You'll learn it. You'll start hitting those fish.
Well, it's been a pleasure to visit with you, Captain Ronnie Daniels from Fisherman Guide Services. If you're interested ever in coming down, look them up, Fisherman Guide Service. You'll be glad you did. It's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you.
And thanks for all you do, and congratulations on y'all's #1 rating there in Pasquishan. When we come back, we have Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy. We're going to talk about duck hunting and conservation. We'll see you after this break.
Have safe.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We really appreciate you spending some time with us on your Super Talk radio station, or maybe you're listening on your podcast or YouTube or Facebook. We appreciate you joining us and interacting with the show. I really enjoyed that conversation with Captain Ronnie Daniels. And Kyle and I were chatting during the break. Man, you have to be dedicated to be a charter boat captain because weather's not always perfect. You know, fishing's not always perfect. But you have to kind of bring it all together, make the best of what the situation is. And as we discussed, the opportunities to be able to have such a diverse opportunity to have success here in coastal Mississippi is very significant. So anyway, I appreciate my friend Ronnie Daniels for joining me here this morning. Now let's shift gears. We're going to move over to my friend Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy. And before we go any further, I just say, welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors, my friend.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I hate I missed the first half with the captain. The frustrations day to day at taking customers out. The weather's not always perfect, and it's tough some days.
What's really cool about what they've done in Pasquishan, like there's a charter fishing service, national service that did a ranking, and Pasquishan came out #1 in the nation for charter cruise and this incredible. It's entrepreneurial, but it's also innovative with things like what they call the shaggy charter docks, which gives people the opportunity to come back in and clean their fish and then cook their fish, and I mean it's just a great thing. And then of course you're right there on Highway 90 and one of the most picturesque harbors of the coast at Pasquishan. And you got an opportunity to go anywhere in coastal Mississippi, so that if the family doesn't have to want to go fishing, they can go do other things while other members of the family are out fishing. But it's a special place.
That's a great experience when you think about it. I did that one time just outside of Panacea with a dear friend of mine's father. We did it with Triple Tail, and to come back, and my little boy, he was 5 then. He still remembers us coming back with those fish and eating them that night at the restaurant. I mean, he's 10 now. That's 5 years ago. It's interesting what stays with him, but that's a great experience.
It really. Hey, listen, we're going to get some rain tonight. At least we hope we do. And as you know, we've watched this happen before. And as I mentioned in the first half of the show, sometimes it's like, here comes the rain, it gets right over your farm, and then suddenly the clouds part and you get no rain, but your neighbors do. Let's hope this front is not that, because as I said at the beginning of the show, man, I saw a lot of dust devils in the Mississippi Delta this past weekend, and that's what you're seeing as you travel all across the state, isn't it?
And man, it is dry, and it's dry from here to the Dakotas. I mean, when for those people that do follow the Mississippi River, I mean, this is not just us. I mean, it's dry everywhere. And if you're a duck hunter, you want water. More water equals more ducks. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. And scientific research is stacked up against that, in favor that more water equals more ducks, and it's just flat out dry right now. We need some rain.
So we have, as you know, at least 3 farms in the Mississippi Delta, and the farm in Minter City, where there usually is water, there's no water, and the farm in Chula, where there's usually water, there's no water. In fact, actually, where there's usually water, we actually found some water, actually. So we thought, we got to take a mental note of that, because that might be a nice little future duck call. And then our main farm, 100-acre Cypress Lake, dry as a bone. So it's gonna. Hey man, if we don't get we don't need just a little bit of rain, because that Mississippi Delta soil, when it does rain, it's just gonna suck it up like a sponge, isn't it?
That's right. You walk out there and there's cracks. You can lose a wrench in. I mean, it's dry. I mean, we need some wet weather. We need it quick.
Yeah. Listen, I know you grew up loving the outdoors, but you especially love duck hunting. What do you first of all, before I even ask that question, tell people how near and dear to your heart duck hunting is.
Growing up, and I tell people all the time, at the end of the day, I'm just a kid from North Mississippi. I say it a lot. I mean, but I truly feel that way, and not just blowing smoke. I mean, that's just my personality. We grew up deer hunting and squirrel hunting and dove hunting, and that was all well and good, but it was the duck side of the equation. And I think it was the camaraderie. It was so different from all those other 3. Maybe not squirrel hunting in that you can talk and there's movement and it's constant. But being in a blind, or hugging a tree next to hugging a tree in a cypress brake, or sitting on a tree line in Tallahatchie County, whatever it may be, the camaraderie and the food as a kid. There's snacks and there's heaters, and I don't know, it was just different. And you see the duck, you could actually see the ducks flying, whereas as a kid, trying to find a deer in the woods with your dad, when your dad's trying to point one out, it can be hard unless you're over a food plot. We didn't hunt over food plots. We hunted in, oak hickory kind of stands. But to be out there and peer over the top of a duck blind, at sunrise, and just watching the show, I was hooked early.
I can tell it's in your DNA. You and I had the opportunity to participate in an event at Providence recently, Providence Farm, and I got to see you shoot. And you're a pretty good shot, Alex.
I don't know about that. I've got some practice. I'm still mid-tier compared to my peers, but I love being out there. I love wing shooting. I just love it. And it's not to say that I don't care for the rest of it. I do enjoy getting out in the woods and deer hunting. In fact, my dad sent me a real nice buck on his camera from back home, and that gets you fired up. That gets you ready to go out there and sit in the woods, and it's just interesting. But when it comes to hunting, I'm gonna lend myself to the duck line more than the tree stand.
Well, look, my time up in the Delta this past weekend, we hung a stand, we took another one down. We situated some cameras, we put some fertilizer on some food plots. All the things you do. I mean, really, there's a limitless number of things to do when you manage a farm that you lease for hunting purposes. We're lucky that we've got a really terrific farmer friend that works with us, Travis Dunn and the Dunn family. They've been terrific to work with. But man, I love this time of year, Alex. I mean, as dusty as it was, and as challenging as some of what we will do if we don't get rain will be. I found myself in the midst of just getting up at 4:30 and going to bed late, and thinking in the midst of that, how lucky we are to be here and to be able to enjoy this camaraderie and just kind of take it all in. I love it. You can't work me hard enough that I'm not going to still love it.
I'm the same way. I love everything you just described, and then I love the relationships that I have had because of duck hunting. In fact, about teal season, I'll hear from a dear friend in Southwest Louisiana that we connected 20 years ago, and have stayed connected since. He's 20 years older than me, and still talks to me like I'm his son and checks in with me, ask how duck season is, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But that relationship is only because we crossed paths in the marsh in Southwest Louisiana one day, and have been great friends since. So I love everything about it. I love everything from putting the boards in to planting the food plots, brushing the blinds, being in the boats, to getting ready that morning, putting on the waders, and all the way up to the relationships. I mean, my wife jokes that all my friends are duck hunting buddies, and she's not wrong. So, there's a lot of truth to that.
Well, I have one of our friends. We had just a really epic last duck hunt last year. And it's one of those stands that's built up into the trees, cypress trees, and I think there might have been, I don't know, seven of us in that stand, just one big stand. Of course, we had a stove, and a portable stove, of course, and we cooked breakfast, and we weren't ready to leave. I mean, we long after the ducks were flying, we still wanted to sit there and talk and laugh, and maybe 30 minutes would pass, and then another group of ducks would come again, and we just like, why don't we just stay here all day? But you've been in that situation a bunch of times, haven't you?
Yeah, growing up, we did it. I mean, we would hunt from sun up to sundown some days, and some days we'd just do it just to be outside and together as a family or friends. And moved into college and guided duck hunts for the Boyd family up in Tunica, and got to share the blind with a lot of interesting people that otherwise I wouldn't have met. And the Boyd family still, I mean, that's what they are. They're family to me. And get to walk around and boat around in Nash Buckingham's backyard and see the sights he saw and tell those stories. And you meet people that have a common interest but are from very different backgrounds. And Mike Boyd told me one morning, he said, the duck blind is the great equalizer. And he's not wrong. At the end of the day, there's very few places that a banker can sit next to a CEO, can sit next to an electrician, can sit next to a farmer and a contractor, and a kid that works in a nonprofit conservation group. And in that moment, that morning or that afternoon, we're all duck hunters.
That's so cool. Hey, this is Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy. When we come back, we're going to mention a little bit about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund and how possibly two really important national appointments he's gotten recently will help kind of feed some information to Mississippi that will help us improve our situation here. When we come back, we'll continue after this break.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy, who loves the outdoors as much as I do. Listen, it's really interesting to know someone who is from Oxford, but he goes to school in Mississippi State. He's from Oxford, you hear me? And he went to school in Starkville, but he got a great education, and he sort of knew from the beginning that he wanted to be work in something to do with nature, conservation, the outdoors. He knew that early in his life, and so he really got a great education. He came out of the Nature Conservancy and landed with the Nature Conservancy immediately. Had a series of positions along the way, and then ultimately became the executive director of the Nature Conservancy. And it's just one of the stars in this state. I mean, I had the opportunity to work closely with Alex during the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund effort over the last couple of years as we work to get that passed. Now we've got this pool of money that we can draw federal funds down. In fact, the Board of Trustees has been appointed. Really good progress is happening on that front. In the meantime, Alex, again, being the star in conservation in this state, he gets appointed to the North American Wetlands Conservation Council, which is literally a presidential appointment, and then also the Neotropical Migratory Bird Conservation Act Advisory Group. And so he's now evaluating projects that would go to North America, including Mexico, and then he can bring back these great ideas. He's already bringing back great ideas as a result of his work at the Nature Conservancy. But the work that you're going to be doing now on the national and sort of continent level relative to what we're trying to do here in Mississippi, there's a relationship, isn't there?
It is, absolutely. I mean, we sit in the Mississippi Flyway, and NAWCA, which is what the North American Wetland Council stands for. We've been beneficiaries of tens of millions of dollars from NAWCA grants since 1989, and so the focus of that particular grant cycle is waterfowl and wetlands. And because of that, because of our uniqueness along the lower Mississippi River, which is the reason we've been so successful in, receiving a lot of those funds. But I told somebody early on, it's been a blessing to be allowed to come represent the Nature Conservancy on that particular council, especially when you look at the success the council has had and the grant cycles have had since '89. Based on their records, they've given out about $2 billion directly, and then they've leveraged another $4 billion, which is, that's real money. I mean, that's real money, and that's real impact.
Well, again, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I believe one of the reasons why having you at the table here in Mississippi is that this opportunity to understand best practice. The Nature Conservancy is a mega property owner in the United States. So you have the opportunity to reach into every state and see what conservation efforts are happening there that we can use, those ideas we can use here. And now when you add these other two appointments to what you're doing, the opportunity to really capture best practices, I'm really focused on that because we don't need to rebuild the wheel. We have so much opportunity to learn from what others have done, and we can, it's taken us a little bit of time to get it put in place, but now we have a outdoor stewardship trust fund here in Mississippi, and we have to hit it out of the park the first time, and we just have to, don't we?
We do, and I'm very confident we will. We had a strong conservation foundation already in the state, and if you look at it in terms of, if you look at it like a truck, the trust fund now is throwing the high grade gasoline in the truck that's going to get us down the road in a way that we weren't able to compete on the national level, especially in the Southeast. We were one of 2 states in the Southeast that didn't have a state dedicated conservation fund. And when you look at federal monies coming to other states around us, we were on the low end, on the receiving end of that. And so the trust fund is going to place us in a completely different category moving forward.
So year one, immediately we have $10 million that we'll be able to match. The goal is to get $20 million or more this year. Eventually, I think we'll probably try to do some tweaking legislation that would allow us to have a dedicated fund, so we don't have to go, re-up every single year in the legislature. But you mentioned, what other states were doing. I mean, when I learned about what Georgia was doing, taking $20 million and leveraging it to nearly $100 million, that gives you a sense of the kind of incredible amount of federal matching funds that are available to us that Mississippi was losing out on because we didn't have the ability to match it. Big deal for Mississippi, isn't it, Alex?
Oh, it's, in terms of conservation, it will completely change the trajectory of what we do and what we're able to accomplish. And if we are successful in getting a truly dedicated funding pot that we don't have to go back and ask for every year, then you begin to see the strength of what that particular tweak will do, because then you can plan ahead 3 to 5 years out. And a lot of this federal work comes, we know it's coming down the line. It may not hit for a few years, but you can plan ahead. And when you're able to do that and you get the minds from DU to Wildlife Mississippi to the Foundation for Wildlife, Fishery and Parks, Conservation Fund, Delta Wildlife, Delta Farm, when you get those folks around the table and able to plan, you'll start to see what that impact can have.
It's going to be a big impact. There's no doubt about it. Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy, thank you for spending some time with me this morning, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Or this afternoon. Have a great day. And as I always say when we get off the air here, stay safe when you're outdoors. God bless you, and we'll see you next Monday.